Yesterday, Kentucky House District 49 had a special election, and in it, Democrat Linda Belcher, a former public school teacher and state lawmaker, defeated Republican Rebecca Johnson 68% to 32%, which is a nice, healthy 36-point win, which is a lot. But it's even more dramatic than that, because it turns out that the last time around, Trump actually beat Hillary Clinton there in that same district 72% to 23%, which is, with my quick mental math, a 300-point swing in favor of the Democrats. It's not that bad, but it's a big swing.
All right, so let's do a bunch of fun things here, including math. So it is not apples to apples because she's in a race that against her opponent, and it was not it was not the same two people in the race earlier, and Trump and Hillary are not running purely in that district. You understand all that stuff. But nonetheless, if you take Trump's margin of victory versus now the Democratic candidate in that district's margin of victory, that is literally, I've never heard of it in covering politics for decades now, an 85-point swing. And that is not hyperbole. John's kidding about the 300%, obviously, but 85%. It's unreal, unprecedented. I don't know that there has ever been a larger swing in American history. Again, since it's not apples to apples, nobody would track that anyway. But that is unreal. Now, there are some caveats, but before we get to the caveats, also, and also a fun prediction. Now, I actually have been saying this for a while, but I'm gonna double down on it tonight. No one believes it, but it's true, it's gonna happen. In 2020, if the Democrats have a truly progressive candidate, which I believe they will win Kentucky in the national election, presidential election.
That's a very specific.
Yes, Kentucky will go blue, become the bluegrass state again, if you will. Okay, I've said this before as well, 42 states. If you have a Bernie Sanders-like candidate, I don't care if it's Trump, Pence, or anyone else, 42 states, including Kentucky. There, I said it.
What if they go against a charismatic candidate like a Ted Cruz? Okay, somebody in the audience has to write this down because that is a very specific, very verifiable prediction there. And hey, let's find out. There have been huge swings in elections. I mean, swings in elections, huge like landslides. That's the word I'm trying to come up with. Landslide. So it's possible. It's certainly possible.
Yeah, and look, sometimes my predictions are a little off. Like when I said Jeremy Corbyn would close a 24-point lead, and he only closed at 20 points in a month. So
I think you should have been fired over that terrible prediction.
All right.
Now let's do a couple of caveats. I've got sort of a specific caveat, and then I've got sort of a concern that maybe is a caveat. So the first is that Linda Belcher is not like brand new, fresh on the scene like some of the people running in these elections. Sorry, I've been up since 5:30. Some of the people running these elections that we've seen over the past year and a half. She actually represented that district from 2009 to 2012, and again from 2014 to January 2017 after being defeated in the 2016 election by a narrow margin. And actually the reason we're having this special election is that in December, then State Representative Dan Johnson, a Republican, took his own life after denying allegations that he had molested a 17-year-old girl at a church where he had served as a pastor. Linda Belcher defeated his widow. And what's interesting is that Linda Belcher originally ran for office after the tragic death of her own husband. And so a very unlikely situation there. There's a little bit of drama to it, although her win was both surprising and overwhelming. There are allegations that it's not legitimate. David Adams is the campaign manager for Republican Rebecca Johnson, who said the big story out of Bullitt County appears to be voter fraud.
Oh, come on.
And Rebecca Johnson said, I've heard from people all day long saying they went to vote for me at the correct polling place and were refused the opportunity to vote. It's like we were in a third world country. Which is not impossible. There are people who attempt to manipulate elections. Certainly, there's misinformation spread. If they want to do an investigation to this, they should. It's extremely unlikely to actually overturn the results, but we want to make sure that people are confident in what happened, whether it's a national election or a state house level election like this.
Okay, so lots of things here. Number one, it is a well-known fact that the Russians would like Kentucky to turn blue. They're really gung-ho about Democrats at the state level. No, seriously, if we talk about voter fraud, who would do the voter fraud? In the case of Kentucky, Kentucky is controlled completely by Republicans at this point. So both legislatures are solidly Republican, and the governor, I would argue, is a right-wing lunatic. So why would all the Republicans conspire to make sure that a Democrat wins by a gigantic margin? It makes no sense whatsoever. The reality is the Republicans have become the new conspiracy theory party. So a solid chunk of the Republican Party believes in any conspiracy theory, and ironically, they don't believe in personal responsibility at all. You get your ass kicked in an election. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. Yeah. It was the lizard people. It was someone else. By the way, to be fair, the Democrats have their own issues with that. It was the Russians. It was this. It was that. Okay, whether the Russians meddled or not, there are a lot of reasons why Hillary Clinton lost. So but at least they're not coming up with lizard people, and like it makes no sense that a completely Republican-controlled Kentucky would fix an election for a Democrat.
MAGA works in mysterious ways.
Okay, so now look, I love the size of this victory, and by the way, let's do a little bit more celebration. It is the 37th state legislative pickup for the Democrats since Trump has gotten into office. So there is a little bit of a wave building there. That is a decent number of pickups. So let's do a little bit of. Okay, all right, fine, enough. Okay, and I'll tell you.
The button.
Yeah, I know. But I'll tell you why that's plenty of celebration, because since 2009, the Democrats have lost 1,000 state legislative races, seats, I should say. They're minus 1,000 in that span of time, which is
3.7% back.
Yeah, which is unreal.
That sounds good.
It's amazing how good the Democrats are at losing. That's part of why I say they're paid to be losers. But here they coming back. And so now, is Belcher the most progressive candidate? Hard to tell. She doesn't have a lot of positions on her website. She has good but benign positions like keep funding of the Bullitt County schools, support our working families, make sure that her county gets a share of the road and infrastructure funds. Oh, good. God bless, right? But not anything fire-breathing progressive positions. And you go, whoa, look at that! Oh my God, somebody running on Medicare for all, one in Kentucky, etc. So it's not that, okay? And she has won this seat before, so that margin of victory for Trump in that district is a little misleading applied to Belcher, because she won before Trump. Now she wins after Trump.
Yeah.
And she's running against apparently a little unhinged conspiracy theorist widow of a guy who was troubled. Yes, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of caveats. There's still an 85-point swing.
Yeah, so that's the final caveat I want to say is that I did as much research as I could to try to find out about Linda Belcher. I went on her social media, I looked at her Ballotpedia, Wikipedia, all that stuff, and there's not a lot of information, which is not suspicious about Linda Belcher. She is a state house representative. It's a very different sort of thing politically. They're not dealing with the national issues necessarily. It's more specific and specific to their district. But that's why, so we're gonna have our extravaganza over the beginning of the primary season. The primary season isn't just exciting in presidential elections, it is exciting and crucial literally right now, because this sort of swing is happening, and it's happened 37 times. And I think a lot of it is going to happen around strong progressive candidates. And I think the strong progressive candidates are going to be the ones best suited to create these sorts of swings. But they are not exclusively the ones who are going to create it. It's one of the dangers of a strategy predicated on putting an absolute monster in office and hoping that will inspire people. It will inspire people to not have a monster in office anymore. And so if the primaries go by, and if we're not active, and we allow a bunch of centrists to go through the primaries, I believe that the likely wave will probably put a wave of centrists in office. That's why we need to make sure that we don't do that and that we're active in the primaries. We make sure there are progressive candidates who win, go on into the general election, and then are riding that wave come November. Because otherwise, and again, this isn't Linda Belcher, she seems like a lovely person, I honestly don't know. But we wanna make sure that we get the right people, not just a lot of people.
Okay, last two super important points. One, I wanna just explain if you guys don't know, the primaries begin on February 27th. We will of course cover them live. We'll have a giant show for you guys at tytnetwork.com/live. Of course, you know the show is live every day, 6 to 8 p.m. there. But this will, and then you got Rebel Headquarters, which covers progressive news and candidates right afterwards for half an hour. And then at 8:35 that night, we start our coverage of the Arizona primary in the 8th Congressional District there. It is the kickoff to the midterm elections. It begins next Tuesday, so don't miss a minute of it. It's gonna be great. Now, the last thing that's relevant to this story and to all those primaries. The reason the Democrats are winning these 37 seats, they won one last week in Florida, last month in Wisconsin, one that they weren't supposed to win, some giant swings in Oklahoma, et cetera, is because voter turnout is the most important thing. And that is not us. So there's the Democratic establishment that yells at progressives, it's your fault, you should turn out. No. But if you, I don't believe in that at all. But on the other hand, I also don't believe the establishment Democratic position, which is, well, we can flip Republicans in the suburbs, so let's go further right wing to try to get Republicans to vote for us. Never gonna work, doesn't work now, will never work. Just did a poll yesterday on the show, Donald Trump among Republicans is polling at 86%. They're not flipping, they're not interested in flipping, that's not what's happening. It's just that they're not that excited because, it turns out only the rich won under Donald Trump. It turns out he didn't do anything about swamp. So less of them vote. Democrats are excited to topple this Republican reign, so they show up to vote. So excite your voters. If you excite your voters, they will show up and you will win. By the way, there are a lot more Democrats than Republicans in the country. There are more registered Democrats on issues. The country's way more progressive. I can go into a dozen polls, et cetera. So all we gotta do is we gotta find exciting candidates, non-corrupted candidates, progressive candidates that inspire people to make the effort to go vote, and I think it'll make all the difference. Look, I think the just Democratic candidates are those guys, but I think there's also a ton of other progressives running in the country. I try to feature as many of them every night at 8 o'clock on Rebel Headquarters. So come check it out and make sure you learn the right lessons from elections like this, which is let's go get them. If you get up and vote, we're gonna rout them. If you like this video, bless your heart. We got a lot more where that came from. We do a full show every day, Monday through Friday. Come enjoy it ad-free by becoming a member, tytnetwork.com/join.